Something that I've been dreaming about lately is bringing books to life. How do I bring the tales that I'm reading, the adventures that I'm having, the people that I'm meeting when I crack open a book into my daily life? A little bit different than romanticizing daily life, I would like to bring what I'm learning in books into my routines and how I plan meals and how I experience life. Jane Austen, within her books, has created a beloved community of readers and movie watchers who really relish immersing themselves into that Regency Era period. The perfect way to bring a Jane Austen book to life, in my opinion, is within the picnic scene on Box Hill in Emma. Bringing treats out away from the hustle and bustle is just such a romantic thing to do and such a perfect way to bring Emma to life. Now in Emma, we would read about servants who were carrying foods up into the hills for these characters. There obviously was a lot of drama and intrigue, but if you just take the picnic out of that, it's such a fun way to bring Jane Austen books to life. So, in that vein, I decided to have just a small little experience of coming away into nature, into the wilds, with a treat and some books. And what I want to do today is share some of my recommendations for books to read that are a Regency era kind of feel, and also share with you some of the books that I'm hoping to read for Jane Austen Summer. So the first recommendation that I would like to make is Pemberley, Mr. Darcy's Dragon by Maria Grace. This is book one in a series. This follows the Pride and Prejudice model where you have Elizabeth Bennet, you have Mr. Darcy, you have the Bingleys, you have the other Bennet sisters and the parents, except we are adding in dragons. And so at the opening of this book, a magical dragon egg goes missing. And this is a big issue. If it gets in the hands of the wrong people, this could cause a lot of problems. The Bennets themselves have their own family emblem dragon. They also have little house dragons that are little small fairy dragons that will connect and bond with individual people. But the thing to note is not everyone knows about these dragons and not everyone can see them. And of course, Elizabeth Bennet, with her kind of a little bit less feminine personality, is one of the people who is able to see the dragons along with her father and Mr. Darcy. This one book is actually only the first half of Pride and Prejudice, and so it does not resolve in the first book. In order to get the full Pride and Prejudice set, you need to buy the second book. But if you like fantasy, or you're interested in a toe dip into fantasy where you're thinking, I hear a lot about fantasy, but I'm not sure if that's a genre I like, this is the perfect intersection of fantasy along with that Regency era book. It really does follow the Pride and Prejudice plot very closely. Next, staying in that fantasy kind of feeling, we have Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. This is the story of Theodora. She is kind of feels like the Cinderella line there, where she is in a family where she's not exactly appreciated, but she has a cousin who very much adores her. And when it's her cousin's time to kind of make her debut into society, she tells her parents that she will not do it unless Theodora, is at her side and experiencing London society with her. And so off the two of them go to London. Part of the reason why Dora is very much a Cinderella character is she almost feeling like a neurodiverse character. She's not able to really discern appropriate social interactions. And the reason is because she came into contact with the Fae at a very young age. And in the process of the Fae stealing her to bring them to their world, she gets pulled back into our world. And in that process of ripping and pulling from their world to her world, we end up with her losing half of her soul. And so she's not really able to feel and express emotions very well. She feels very cut off from that part of her. And so that makes her have these like social gaffes that happen as she's out in proper society. Well, of course, she comes into contact with Lord Sorcier, which obviously is reminiscent of sorcerer or male magician. And he recognizes immediately that there's something that is different about Dora. And they go through the process together of trying to uncover ways to make her be whole again. And it is just, again, very whimsical, set in that Regency era London, and a lovely read. While there are other books by Olivia Atwater in this series, this is a standalone and can be enjoyed just as it is. Next, I have The Benevolent Society of Ill-Mannered Ladies by Alison Goodman. This is also set in Regency, London. One of my favorite things about this book is that we have a heroine who is older, a woman named Lady Augusta, who goes by Gus, a very masculine kind of nickname, which indicates her personality to a T. She is in her 40s. She is unmarried. She's unfettered. She loves her life and her setting. She is very close with her sister, who is a twin named Julia. And they soon are embroiled in this situation where they have a friend of theirs whose daughter is in an abusive relationship. And they are going to go and kind of figure out how to extricate her from this situation. But Gus is very masculine. When you think of Regency London, you think of like the duels and the marauders who attack carriages as they're traveling through the woods. And, you know, you can just kind of picture it. We've seen it all. But she very much feels like one of those marauders or one of those peoples in the carriage that when they're attacked at gunpoint, she's the one brandishing the gun and having everyone kind of just escape running from her. And that's really her personality. This is a pretty thick book. There is a romance in here, as you would expect. It is very unconventional. It feels a bit rowdy and almost kind of like a heist. And it's just a book that I really enjoyed reading. I picked it up for the cover, but it really is not as delicate as these ladies portray on the cover. Lakeshire Park by Megan Walker is one of my favorite Regency romances. Megan Walker wrote Malcolm's List, which actually was not my favorite. I felt like there wasn't as much depth and intrigue in that as was in Lakeshire Park. But in Lakeshire Park, we follow Amelia Moore, whose family is destitute. They are needing to really make a good match in this London society season for her sister so that their family is able to retain the life that they have come to lead and their wealth and their prestige. And it's not necessarily, I mean, it sounds really kind of selfish that they want to keep this lifestyle, but as we know, in that day and age, a woman was really reliant on men in order to be able to exist within society and within a culture. Otherwise, they are relegated to kind of different areas of society that are just very unpleasant. And so she is working tirelessly to try to make a good match for her sister in order to save the family. Lo and behold, they get an invitation to visit Lakeshire Park with a party of other young society people. And in this, Amelia has determined that she's going to make this match for her sister. Well, in comes Peter Wood. He is also trying to make a match for his younger sister, and hijinks ensue. The two of them are competing to have their sister be the one who is chosen by these young eligible men that are at this party. They're competing about it. They realize what the other one is doing and develop sort of this compatible rivalry where they make deals and they're communicating with each other and basically getting to know each other through that process. I, again, thought that this had a depth to it that was missing in Malcolm's List. I would recommend reading this over that one if you are choosing a Megan Walker novel. Dangerous Alliance by Jenna K. Cohen is an ostentatious romance, as the book of the month cover advertises. In this, we have Lady Victoria. She's feeling very settled. Her sister has made a very good match. Her parents are not as pressed for her to find a match at this point. She's sort of able to kind of live the life that is comfortable to her, but that all changes when they discover that her sister is in an abusive marriage and they need to get her out of that situation for her own safety, but then to be able to do it in a way that's acceptable in society. And so it turns out that Victoria does not have the freedom that she thought when we started this, and she really needs to make a match for herself in order to redeem the standing of the family in the eyes of society, and also to develop some clout to be able to get her sister out of this abusive marriage in a way that is acceptable to all of their peers. There's also a mystery that goes along with this. It almost seems like there is some peril for Victoria. She seems to be the target of some physical aggression that is frightening for her. She has this neighboring estate that butts up against her family's estate, and there are two brothers that are on that estate. One of them she was very close with, but he left in their childhood. He's now returned, and she really can't figure him out. There seems like there's a lot going on there with him, but she's not able to really figure out what is going on. She kind of interacts with him in a way of like, hey, we used to know each other and know each other well, but he very much has a wall. This is also a thick one to read, but if you're looking for mystery inside of a novel that has pretty mature themes of physical abuse and what that looks like in Regency era, as well as having the romance aspect, this might be a good choice for you to pick up. Lastly, we have Catherine Ray, who wrote The Austen Escape. Catherine has written quite a few Austen retellings where she brings them into a more modern feel. And so this one is no different. The Austen Escape, instead of kind of mimicking each separate novel, having like Mr. Knightley, which mimics Emma, which I believe she wrote. This one is a mishmash of all of Austen's novel, where she has characters from each of the novels that all convene. So in this, we have Mary Davies. She is traveling with her friend Isabel to this Jane Austen themed vacation in England. And so you would go for 2 weeks and everything feels very Austen. So she's, when you're talking about bringing a book to life, that's what this is for a vacation for 2 weeks. And when we go into it, we realize that there are complicating factors in this friendship between Isabel and Mary. We also realize that Mary in her corporate job is experiencing some corporate politics that are making her job difficult. She's a very intelligent scientist, but there are difficulties at her corporation. And so getting away for 2 weeks feels really great. Well, lo and behold, there are all of these different characters all staying there, again, from different Austen novels. And there are also people who come in who are relationship potential, right? Where you're developing something more than a friendship. And in that, we're unpacking this relationship between Isabel and Mary, who, as friends, are also very similar to almost like being sisters. This, I think, is, in my opinion, the least Regency era like novel, but because it does pull in all of those different characters within Austen's novels, it's interesting and intriguing and a very character-driven book. So as I move on to my TBR, I mentioned this Pemberley, Mr. Darcy's Dragon by Maria Grace having a second book that makes it the full Pride and Prejudice. And I have the second one to read for this July. So this is Longbourn, Dragon Entail by Maria Grace. Longbourn is obviously the Bennet's dragon. And so we have the beginning of Darcy at Pemberley and then Bennet at Longbourn. And my understanding is this will complete the Pride and Prejudice series. And then any of the other books in this Jane Austen's Dragons series will then be the other Jane Austen books. So I'm excited to read this. It very much looks and feels like a self-published book, just how it is. You can only find it in paperback, and you can only get it online. I've never found these in the stores, but I'm excited to dive back into this because I love fantasy and I love the Regency era. In addition to reading a Dragon Austen book, I am also planning to read Dangerous Magic by Monica Fairview. This is an interesting adaptation to Pride and Prejudice that I found on a Kindle sale. So this will be an e-read for me. And it has an intriguing synopsis in that Elizabeth Bennet is a mage and Mr. Darcy is a mage as well. The controlling powers in their magical society have deemed that Darcy and Elizabeth Bennet must get married. It's an arranged marriage setting. They have no say in it, and so she gets taken from Longbourn and taken to Mr. Darcy and is forced to marry him. And so they need to, hopefully figure out how to get along. Obviously, we're hoping that love develops in that because Elizabeth Bennet wanted to marry for love and not because there was an arranged marriage. And so I think it's interesting to have a adaptation where they don't have this courtship period that is really, you hear about like the hand flex right in the movie, like that courtship is the crux of the novel. Once they end up in a situation where they're getting married, that's the end of the book. And so to have them married at the beginning and then seeing what that looks like to develop, I think seems so intriguing, and I'm excited to have that just be a light, fun read. The next book that I want to read is The Sisters of Seaview by Julie Klassen. In the beginning of all of her books, she starts with a time period, and of all the ones that I looked at the library recently, they all are Regency era. So you should be able to very easily determine if one of her books is that you're looking at to read is a Regency era book. The Sisters of Seaview is on Devonshire Shores Book 1. So this, I think, is a trilogy. It comes with a map, which is not something that you normally see in these Regency era novels. I love it so much. It is also a Christian fiction, and so she's got Bible verses in there, as well as references to other authors that begin each chapter. Quote, this is a very thick book. It is over 400 pages, but I'm looking forward to diving into this and hopefully will enjoy it so much that I move on in the series. So I also grabbed when I was in the library grabbing this Julie Klassen book, I got The Houses of Yorkshire novel In the Shelter of Hollythorn House by Sarah Ladd. I've not read reviews on this or anything. I honestly grabbed it because I thought the cover was really pretty, and I also loved the idea of Hollythorn House. It just sounds very Regency romantic. This is the story of a woman who gets married. She chooses the convenience of a safe marriage over a marriage of love, which maybe would not have left her to be as in good of standing. But through this marriage that she has, she discovers that the man she married does not really seem to have honor in his dealings with people. When he dies unexpectedly, she returns back to an estate, and the person who comes to kind of protect her and the estate is this man that she would have chosen if she had chosen a marriage for love. I think this is her unpacking all of the damage that her first husband had done and hopefully developing a proper relationship with the man that I think she loved before she married the first time. So here's to hoping that you are able to get a Jane Austen aesthetic into your reading experience this summer. And whether that's packing a full-fledged Box Hill picnic with a basket and a large blanket and a couple books and going up and sitting at the top of a hill in a field in the middle of nowhere, or whether it's grabbing a treat and a blanket and taking your book out just in your backyard to read for a little bit, I hope that you're able to find that enjoyment and peace and immersion that we all can find when we dive into books. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time.